Alright, 3 lines from the bottom of the first section of Ois Yud Aleph on page Chav Gimel. The line begins with the hatzimtzum. We're talking about oiros, and as we already have seen, that oiros have a totally different principle than kelim, primarily in its relationship to the source. That oiros always remain connected and representative of the source, no matter what happens in the process of their movement. Even if they go through the tzimtzum, it still draws from the original oir. As the moshel of that is Cyrus, is hair. There cannot be a greater interference, a break from the source, from the moya, from life source, to Cyrus. Cyrus are virtually lifeless. No sensitivities whatsoever. And yet we say, and in fact, they come through what's called hefsek hagulgelis. The interference of the gulgelis, of the skull. Skull does not permit, the whole function of the skull is to protect the brain, that there should not be a direct contact with the brain. Hair grow on top of the skull, which means that in the highest of the brain.
I don't see the connection between the skulls and what we were saying before.
Hair grow on the skull.
Yeah.
Growth comes from the highest. Growth is a living quality. The hair don't manifest any kind of life except for the fact that they grow from the skull.
Okay.
Where did they get this? Where is this highest come from?
From the skull.
From the skull.
Yeah.
But the skull does not have life of its own.
Yeah. Okay.
Skull is insensitive completely. The highest in the hair is from the brain. Except that the highest from the brain goes through the tzimtzum, the hefsek hagulgelis.
Okay.
This hefsek hagulgelis, although it is a very significant hefsek interference, to the extent that the resultant chayas that comes at the other side of the hefsek The hair have hardly any life in them. They certainly have no sensitivity. You can cut hair without any ramifications. And yet, the hair represents the chayas that emanates from the moyach. And this chayas emanating from the moyach, despite the interference of the skull and so forth, it is still representative of the chayas of the brain. And this representation of the chayas of the brain is bechinas gilui, where there is, you can tell that there is chayas hidden under the skull.
So the skull creates a hefsek.
What?
The skull creates a hefsek between the brain and the hair.
Right. And the hair draw from the brain chayas in order to, and then the hair they should grow. But this is what the tzimtzum is, a complete hefsek. The brain is the most sensitive organ in the human being. The hair is the least sensitive. And yet there is a direct connection. This is the reason. The reason for that is, we said chayus is like oil. That no matter how it travels and where it is found, there is a representation, a direct connect to its source.
The cue that we see with the hair is just the fact that it's growing and it has some sort
Yeah.
of...
Then also, the fact that it's growing, and in the hair is also manifest the power, the strength that is imbued in them. A young person has black hair, typically, or red hair, but with a full color. As time goes on and becomes weaker, then he loses that power. And eventually the hair also begin to fall out. The hair are no longer draw that chayas. Because it dissipates as a result of age and so forth. But under all circumstances, it is connected to the source. So the cyrus is a moshel for the Inyan that oiros draw from oirein soif, from the oirein soif. All right. So we already belabored, spoke about the meaning of oiros and so forth. So I guess we will continue further now. Okay, now we're going to a long section that is here in closing parentheses, but we will try and wade through it see how successful we are. Yeah. והנה, מה שנסבור לעיל יובן, from what we explained above, we can understand a very profound phenomenon. The be'emes, that in truth, yesh yisroin maila bekelim al ha'oris. There is a supremacy in kelim over oiris.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
So, Chassidus are analogous to kelim?
Chassidus are analogous to oir.
Chassidus are analogous to oir.
Yeah.
So, in that example, where's the keli?
Coming to the tzimtzum.
I'm sorry. Where's this analogy to the keli?
All right. So the Cyrus is not the Cyrus themselves; it's the chayas that's in the Cyrus.
And the Chassidus themselves is the keli.
Right.
Okay.
So with the above, we can understand a phenomenon that actually there is a yesh yisur ma'ala b'kelim al ha'oris. There is a certain supremacy, a ma'ala. The word ma'ala is very difficult to translate in English. Just the whole concept does not exist in the language. Ma'ala means higher, above. In context of Lashon Kodesh, what Ma'ala does not mean above. Ma'ala means its significance, its value. There's a significance in kelim over and above oiris. What does significance mean? Clearly, oiris have a living significance. Kelim are completely, relative to oiris, lifeless. But you're talking about Ma'ala from a truth perspective. And in Ma'ala, from a truth perspective, the question is, what is their connection? And what do they represent in terms of their source? What do they represent in terms of the Ein Sof? And this is what we're saying, that there's a Ma'ala in Kelim al ha'oris. In a certain sense, the Kelim are representative, remind us of a truer and a deeper aspect in the Lukus than oiris. How so? The shoyresh hakelim hey mehorshim. For the shoyresh, the root of the kelim is from the rishim. What is Rishima? We already discussed Rishima. Rishima means Shezeho Roishem Miho Eisof Shelifnei hatzimtzum, which is a Roishem, the trace, the effect of the Ein Sof that precedes the tzimtzum. And the significance, the phenomenon of the Roishem means that even though there's a tzimtzum, this truth, this profound element cannot be wiped off, cannot be eliminated. Which means that this is representative of the deepest and truest element in the source. The source, as we always, at every opportunity, make the point that we should remember what we're dealing with. Like we said, the Rambam's expression, Motzoi Rishon, first presence. First presence means that there is no cause for this first presence. You cannot go, like we say all the time, you can grasp the table by going outside the table. Now you know what the table is. You cannot go outside of this first presence and understand what is this first presence stand for. This first presence is literally a first presence. There is nothing preceding it, no cause, no need, nothing. It is not there. It doesn't have a functional definition. This first presence, no matter how much you will camouflage, you will make a tzimtzum and so forth, all tzimtzum applies only to a manifestation. But a first presence that is not dependent on manifestation cannot be affected by tzimtzum. Because no matter where you go and no matter how you will tzimtzum, the first presence is going to be there. Just as originally it is there without any cause. So you cannot eliminate it. Listen to the Rishim. It's a Roshim Mehoinsof Shelifnei Atzimtzum. And as it explained elsewhere, the Oisi the Rishimu, that the Oisi Yois that are contained and are presented in the Rishimu, Leinoga Bohem hatzimtzum klal. The tzimtzum did not touch them at all. The meaning of oisi is over here. That's already discussed in the previous ois. The principle of oisios at this juncture is there is the etzem, like we say, the first being, as the first being is unto himself, and before tzimtzum, after tzimtzum, it makes no difference at all. This is the way it is unto itself. The whole principle of tzimtzum is how it manifests. Oisios are the means for manifestation, for expression. Now, the principle of oisios, clearly it's using phenomenon that is within our world. What is oisios? Letters. Every thought that we have oisios written on this on these pages. Every thought expressed in oisios. What are the oisios? The oisios in themselves do not carry any thought. They're a principle that cannot be erased because they don't depend on functionality, on a message. The oasis, when one looks at this page and doesn't know what it says, he knows one thing, that it says something. Why? Because they're oases. For all I know, these oases have been so transpositioned, and now there is no way you can make out one word out of these oases. But it's still representative of our thought. The oases are representing the Ayin, that there is something real here that has a manifestation. The manifestation is a matter that you don't know what its message is. Its presence is there. This is oasis. The oasis represent the fact that there is something there. That Ayin is irreplaceable, cannot be camouflaged. The tzimtzum did not touch them at all. And although sheyesh loymar, that it's conceivable, shalidei shenisalem gili hoir min hoisiyos, that as a result of the fact the oil was concealed from the oasis, the oil was taken away from the oasis, and bezen nasa b'chinas mitzias. As a result of that, they became b'chinas mitzius, in a mitzius aspect. Okay, the Indian from b'chinas mitzius, a mitzius aspect. Oasis is like kalim. This is the source of kalim. B'chinas mitzius means that they no longer represent the true source. They represent their own mitzius. Mitzius means that, on the contrary, it's not representing the source. So there's no mile mitzius. Okay, this is going on for a while. I just want to, so we have a complete thought. If you take a written page which initially was composed with letters representing a thought, then you take these letters and you transposition them in a manner that you cannot follow any thought. As we said, these oases still are a clear allusion that that they came from a thought. That cannot be camouflaged, cannot be taken away, because that's what oasis are. So despite the fact that it no longer represents the thought itself, that was a nasi b'chinas mitzius, it become a mitzius. In other words, why can't you erase it? Because it's a mitzius. But what mitzius is it? Where does mitzius come from? In representing this thought. said in the middle, I have to get a certain completeness, something. Going back to our guest and host analogy. No matter what the host presents to the guest, and no matter what happens subsequently, the most significant aspect of this is that the host is together with the guest. Although he shows him a meal and he eats the meal, which is completely independent of the host, but it's representative of the fact that he's the host, and that remains its significance. And as we pointed out, that should the host leave, then the guest cannot even eat the meal anymore. Although the material remains, but it doesn't have any reality. So this is the union of the oisius. The real union of the oisius cannot be eradicated. And now we'll interrupt. Have a great day.
Manifestation and revelation are two different things.
What makes you say that?
Because
la